In an extraordinary and unprecedented public admission, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said the quiet part out aloud. We're running out of things to sanction in Russia. A sentence that marks not just frustration and fatigue, but a potential collapse of the West's most relied upon geopolitical weapon. Sanctions, the core tool Washington and Brussels have used for decades, appear to have finally met their match. Today we break down why Rubio's statement matters, how Russia has adapted, why BRICS nations defied the Western pressure, and how the sanctions war has backfired on the very countries that have imposed it. This is a deep geopolitical shift. Let's begin. Hello and welcome back to TFI Global. At the G7 foreign ministers meeting, reporters asked Rubio about the possibility of new sanctions on Russia. His answer was blunt. Well, I don't know what more there is to do. A sigh, a hesitation, and then the line that went viral. We're running out of things to sanction in that regard. This wasn't a leak. This wasn't an off-record briefing. It was a public admission from the highest American diplomat that Washington has almost exhausted its ability to pressure Russia through economic warfare. After sanctioning Rosneft, Lukoil, after going after banks, LNG, crypto, defense components, shipping, aviation, and over 180 shadow fleet tankers, the toolbox, Rubio suggests, is nearly empty. This is something Western officials have avoided saying for years. But now, the mask is off. For many in the West, sanctions were supposed to cripple Russia, crash its economy, destroy its currency, bring Moscow to its knees. But the result? The Russian economy has not only survived, in some areas it has strengthened. Why? Because Russia diversified at a lightning speed. Energy exports redirected to Asia, especially China and India. New trade routes built through the Eurasian corridor. A massive self-sufficiency drive in food, defense and manufacturing. Currency, banking and payment systems were redesigned to bypass SWIFT and the dollar system. Rubio himself admitted the core problem. Sanctions only work if there are still meaningful channels to choke. After years of aggressive targeting, many of those channels are already gone. Russia rebuilt them elsewhere. Meanwhile, Europe, especially the European Union, is facing energy shortages, high inflation and rising public pressure. Rubio's statement inadvertently acknowledged a hard truth. The sanctions hurt the West more than they hurt Russia. Another part of this story is quietly shaping the world, the rise of BRICS. As Western sanctions expanded, BRICS expanded in strength and now joined by new members with massive energy reserves and growing economies. Collectively, the BRICS GDP in purchasing power is now larger than the G7. It is not a symbolic milestone but a structural economic shift. BRICS nations openly rejected Western unilateralism. They continue trading with Russia, pushed for de-dollarization and built alternative supply chains. They challenged the West's assumption that sanctions are globally binding. In the old world order, the US sanctioned the country and the world followed. In the new world order, the world does not automatically comply. This is the heart of the multipolar era, and Rubio's remark reflects exactly that. Rubio highlighted that sanctioning Russia's major energy companies Rosneft and Lukoil was the last big step. But this triggered a cascade of unintended consequences. Take the Lukoil Bulgaria crisis. Western sanctions disrupted Lukoil's operations so severely that Bulgaria, a NATO and European Union member, now reportedly has only 30 days of energy reserves. Instead of isolating Russia, Europe isolated itself. Energy prices surged, industries shut down and inflation skyrocketed. And this is not just Bulgaria. Germany, France, Italy all faced energy shocks. Meanwhile, Russia found new buyers and kept its oil flowing. Another reason sanctions have become ineffective is Russia's shadow fleet. Hundreds of tankers with no clear ownership, expired certificates and murky flags, and secret ship-to-ship transfers. These ships transport Russian oil worldwide, beyond Western visibility. Rubio said Europe must stop them, but Europe can't. The fleet operates in regions where European Union navies don't want escalation, inspections are risky, and local economies rely on the trade. Russia built an entire parallel maritime system, a sanctions-proof pipeline. Enforcement is collapsing. Ukraine responded sharply to Rubio saying the US is far from finished. Officials in Kyiv argue that many untouched areas remain. More banks, more oil majors, payment systems, Arctic development, logistics infrastructure, and dozens of industries linked to Russia's military. But here's the issue. The US may want to sanction those sectors, but politically, economically, and strategically, it cannot. Any deeper sanctions would cause global shocks, especially in energy and shipping. Washington and Brussels knows about this, which is why Rubio's frustration is showing. Even more worrying for the West, sanctions were meant to weaken Russia's war machine, but on the ground, Russia continues to advance major gains in Zaporizhia, Pokrovsk, new territorial control, massive drone and artillery dominance, and the fastest territorial gains since early 2024. The Institute for the Study of War reports Russia captured 40 kilometers square in a single day. That is not the sign of a collapsing military. That is the sign of a military that adapted, regrouped, and advanced. Sanctions failed to cripple Russia's battlefield capacity. Rubio's remark signals something much bigger than frustration. It signals the decline of Western economic dominance, the limits of unilateral sanctions, and the rise of alternative economic blocs, and a new multipolar world where the West cannot simply dictate terms. For decades, sanctions were Washington's strongest weapon, but now that weapon is losing power. The question is, what comes next? And in this new era of shifting alliances and geopolitical realignment, the answer will shape the next decade. If you found this deep dive useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next analysis.